root of x, or in a bracket exponent 3, equals 1 over 8. Okay, now we can write the square root of x as x exponent half, okay, equals 1 over 8. Okay, so x exponent half multiplying the exponent 3 equals 1 over 8. Now here we are going to apply the power of a power rule of indices. Okay, so we have a exponent b multiplying the exponent c equals a exponent c multiplying the exponent b. So our equation is going to be s cubed, or x exponent 3, okay, x exponent 3 multiplying, okay, half equals 1 over 8. All right, so our equation is going to be, okay, now we have s cubed. Okay, so we want to eliminate the half in order to have a cubic equation. Therefore, we are going to multiply, okay, we're going to multiply the exponent half by 2. Okay, that is the exponent on top of the s cube. Okay, so is the exponent on top of all the term at the left part. So we are squaring it, or we are multiplying it by 2. Okay, so sorry, we are not squaring it, we are multiplying the exponent by 2. And then here we have 1 over 8. Okay, of course, any number there has a power of 1. So this has a power of 1. Now, since we are multiplying the exponent, okay, at the left part of the equation by 2, we multiply here by 2 as well. All right, so we are going to have these two canceling this. So we have s cubed equals, okay, 1 over 8 squared. Now we're going to apply the quotient rule to evaluate the right side of the equation. Okay, so if you have a over b, or in a bracket exponent c, this gives us a exponent c all over b exponent c. Okay, so our equation is going to be x cubed equals 1 square over 8 squared. So our equation becomes s cubed. Now 1 squared is 1, a squared is 64. So our equation becomes, okay, s cubed equals 1 over 64 is the same as 4 cubed. Okay, all right. Now let's transpose 1 over 4 cubed. So you're going to have s cubed. Okay, all right. Now remember that 1 cube, okay, 1 is the same as 1 cube. So let's introduce it. So let's transpose. So you're going to have, you're transposing 1 cube over 4 cube. Okay, so you have 1 cube over 4 cube equals 0. So you're going to have s cubed minus, now we are going to apply the quotient rule here. So we have 1 over 4, or in a bracket exponent 3 equals 0. All right, now we are going to apply the difference of cubes identity. Okay, so let's state it. So if you have a minus 3 minus b, so if you have a cube minus b cube, this gives us a minus b a squared plus ab plus b squared. Okay, now let's apply this to our question. So we have x minus 1 over 4. Okay, and then we have a squared plus x over 4 plus, okay, 1 over 4 squared. So that gives us 1 over 64 equals 0. All right, now let's evaluate, okay, let's simplify the equation. Now, so you can say x minus 1 over 4 equals 0. Now let's call this equation 1. And then we can say s squared plus x over 4 plus 1 over 64 equals 0. Let's call this equation 2. So we have two equations. Now we can say from equation 1, x equals 1 over 4. Okay, now we are left with equation 2. Now from equation 2, okay, we have s squared plus x over 4 plus, okay, s squared plus x over 4 plus 1 over 64 equals 0. All right, now let's find the LCM of the left part of the equation. So divide here by 1, and the LCM is 64. Okay, now 1 goes to, now let's do some corrections here. Okay, now 1 over 4 squared, 1 over 4 squared gives us 1 over 16 instead. Okay, so this is 16. So let's do the corrections. All right, so this is 16. And 1 goes to 16, 16, so you have 16x squared plus 4 goes to 16, 4, so you have 4x plus 16 goes here to 61, so you have 1 equals 0. Okay, so our equation becomes 16x squared plus 4x plus 1 equals 0. All right, now let's apply the quadratic formula. Now before we apply the quadratic formula, let's state the expression in order to derive our parameters for the quadratic formula. So a squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So a equals 16, b equals 4, and c equals 1. Okay, now let's state the quadratic formula. Now x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so let's do the substitution. So you have x equals minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4. Now a is what? Now let's check a. A is 16. Okay, so a is 16. So 4 times 16 times c. C is 1 all over 2 times a. Okay, and a is 16. All right, now let's evaluate. So you have x equals minus 4 plus or minus the square root of, now 4 squared is 16 minus 4 times 16 is 64. Okay, all over 32. All right, now this gives us x equals minus 4 plus or minus, now 16 minus 64 gives us minus 48. Okay, all over 32. All right, now this is going to be x equals minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 48 times minus 1 all over 32. All right, now if you have, or the square root of a times b is equal to the square root of a times the square root of b. So our equation becomes x equals minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 48 times the square root of minus 1 all over 32. All right, now we know that, okay, we can simplify, we can write 48 as 16 times 3 times the square root of minus 1. Okay, so 48 can be written as 16 times 3. Okay, all right. So our equation becomes x equals minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 times the square root of 3 times, times the square root of minus 1 all over 32. All over 32. All right, so our equation becomes x equals minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 is 4. So you have 4 root 3 times the square root of minus 1 all over 32. All right, now we know that minus 1 is the same as I squared. Okay, so in place of minus 1, we can write I squared. So our equation becomes x equals minus 4 plus or minus 4 root 3 times the square root of I squared. Okay, all over 32. And this square cancels this root. So you're going to have x equals minus 4 plus or minus 4i root 3 all over 32. Okay, all right, so we are going to separate, okay, x1 from x2 because s contains two answers or two different solutions or two solutions. So x equals minus 4 over 32 plus or minus 4i over 32 multiplying, okay, the root of 3. All right, now so 4 cancels itself, 1 goes here, 8, 4 goes here, 1 goes here, 8. So we are going to have x equals minus 1 over 8 plus or minus, okay, the square root of 3i, okay, over 8, okay. Now you can bring the I in front of the root or at the back of the root. It depends on how you want to, okay, how you want to do it. Therefore, we can say x1 equals 1 of minus 1 over 8 plus root 3i over 8, okay? And then x2 equals minus 1 over 8 minus the square root of 3i over 8. Okay, so this is what you have. So this is the end. All right. Kindly subscribe and share.